welcome back. I've got Jake, our MLB analyst, with us, here to ask him a couple questions. So Jake, first off, season wrapping up, teams are finally starting to clinch playoff spots. Who do you have for your playoff bracket will start in the American League?
Yeah, like you said, 2 weeks left in the Major League Baseball regular season. Breaking it down, I have the Cleveland Indians making it with the #1 seed. They've won 21 straight contests. That's an American League record. We barely see this in sports, and unfortunately, it's barely being talked about because football season's taken over the conversation right now. So behind them, I have the Houston Astros, who are still hanging in there at #2. They've kind of been impacted by the hurricane a little bit, had to play some games away from Houston. And obviously, there's another series taking place. I think it's the Marlins series that's taking place in Milwaukee because of the hurricanes down there, which that's in the National League. But anyway, Cleveland #1, Houston #2. I have the Red Sox coming in #3, winning the AL East. And then going over in the National League, I have the Nationals overtaking the Dodgers, who, as of last night, were 1-9 in their last 10 contests. They're kind of slipping after a historic summer.
Yeah, the Dodgers really dropped off really quick.
Yes, like you said. So Nationals #1, Dodgers #2. I have the Cubs at #3, and it's actually interesting. The two wildcard teams, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies, who I have right now, they're neck and neck. Basically, they all have better records than the Cubs, but it's just because of the division. The Cubs would obviously finish in first place. You could still see the Cardinals slip in there, but I think the Cubs, with their World Series experience from last year, the Cardinals are a little young in experience, so I have the Cubs going at #3, and then, like I said, the Diamondbacks and Rockies in the West, both of them taking the wild card slots in the National League.
All right, now you did have a little bit of time to prepare with these questions, so I want to throw a little bit of curveball at you. Yes,
go for it.
Pun absolutely intended there. So, Aaron Judge had a historically unbelievable start to his career. Since then he's kind of tailed off. He has that strikeout streak. Does that start and what he does now, is that enough for him to win American League Rookie of the Year this year?
I think he's certainly in the running for Rookie of the Year. He could have been MVP, but because of his second half, I think that's going to derail him there. But I do think he has a strong shot to win American League Rookie of the Year. Another guy who people aren't talking about is Trey Mancini, infielder from the Orioles, has had a stellar. He played a little bit last year, but really this is his actual rookie season. He's had a really strong year, but how can you beat Aaron Judge's historic first half? So between those two, Judge is the clear-cut front runner for the American League Rookie of the Year. So that will definitely be interesting as the playoffs begin in a couple weeks here.
All right. That's all we have for baseball talk.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Jimmy Brown, alongside here with Aaron Kaplan and Breon Young, and we're here to talk about some of our favorite trades in the NBA offseason.
Okay, first trade I would like to talk about is the Paul George trade from the Indiana Pacers to Oklahoma City Thunder. I like this trade because it shows the dominance of Paul George leaving Indiana Pacers to join a powerhouse player in Russell Westbrook. I like this trade because it shows that he's ready to win a title. Russell Westbrook's ready to win the NBA championship, and I think these players can go far, and this team can go far throughout the Western Conference.
My personal favorite was the Boston and Cleveland trade. Boston received Kyrie Irving, and the Cleveland Cavaliers received Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Ante Zizic, and as well as a 2018 first-round pick. I personally like this trade because I feel like it helps LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to be able to take on some of the tougher teams in the West. I know the teams in the East seem to lack a lot of power, so Cleveland tends to be the team to come out most of the time. Kyrie Irving will help Boston, though, so I think that will be a tough feat for Cleveland.
So the next trade, the Houston Rockets received Chris Paul in exchange for Patrick Beverley, Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell, DeAndre Liggins, Darren Hillier, Lou Williams, and Kyle Wiltshire, along with a 2018 first-round pick with cash considerations. So in my opinion with this trade, I'm not sure if I really like it that much because Chris Paul is really a ball dominant point guard, and James Harden was just promoted to the point guard position by Mike D'Antoni last year, and that was working really good for them. So they just added another all-star point guard to the team, so there could be a little clash there, especially they need to share the ball. There's only one ball. So I'm not really sure. It's a tough trade, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's all we have.
My name's Matt. Welcome back to another episode of Football Talk. Two questions that are being passed around right now in the college football world. The first one is Oklahoma a legitimate playoff contender? Yes, but ... They are. They had a huge win on the road against Ohio State. Baker Mayfield played out of his mind. He's an unbelievable quarterback. In my opinion, the most NFL-ready quarterback coming into the NFL draft for this year. The only reason I say but is because the Big 12 does not have a conference championship game, and that is the reason we have not seen Oklahoma in the playoff yet. Oklahoma has had teams run by Baker Mayfield that have been good enough to qualify for the playoffs, but considering they don't actually play for any type of conference championship game, it's kind of a moot point no matter how well they do. After last season, Penn State winning the Big Ten championship game and still not getting a playoff spot, whether they deserve it or not, that's not part of the question. The fact is, they won, they didn't get it. Does that leave the door open for Oklahoma to actually get a spot this year, knowing that an actual conference champion can still get in? The other question I want to talk about is one that's more local. Is Penn State actually a top 5 team? And Penn State fans, I'm sorry, but no. You're good, top 15, maybe top 10, I'll argue that. But for right now, just everybody relax. The rankings don't mean anything yet. That's all I've got